Habiba Kabir, Boulder, Colorado. Well, it's the first surah of the Quran. I could do it if you'd like. Okay, want to join me? Al-Fatiha, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. As-siratal ladina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladhdallin. Ameen. It's a really long story. I follow the Sufi tradition, the Nur Ashki Jarahi Sufi order that's from Turkey. Sufi orders come from many different places in the world, and our pir was from Istanbul, from Turkey. And how I came to that, well, it wasn't particularly a choice, like a mental choice. I met a sheikh, Sheikh Noor, about 20 years ago, maybe, in the Midwest, and I was already part of another Sufi order that came from India. But when I met him, and I didn't even know who it was, and someone went, "This is," and I took a hold of his hand, and everything just went white. And I stood there for the longest time, just totally gone, And then I kind of came back to myself, and he said, "Wow, you must have heard a lot about me. I've never seen anyone just take it all in one gulp like that." And I went, "Who are you?" And it was Sheikh Noor of our order. So there wasn't any doubt. There wasn't any way to doubt that this was where I belonged. And that's how I came to this particular path. The rest of the story is very long, but well, I was raised Christian, disciples of Christ. And I always asked a million questions, like things like, where's heaven? How far is forever? Things like that, until I got them all pretty disgusted with me at the church that we went to. And I never could really figure out as a child, like, what's going on? Where's the love? I don't understand. And so I ended up spending most of my childhood in the top of an apple tree, just looking at the clouds, reading books, just, okay, I don't know what's going on, so I'm just here doing this, And finally, I changed churches like in 5th grade because I couldn't stand it that they were saying one thing and doing something else. I didn't care if they did something else, but then I didn't think they should be saying it the opposite way, It seemed really strange to me, so I thought, well, I'll go to another church. But so I changed to Baptist, but it was the same there as far as I could see. But I just kind of stuck around. And till actually I was out of high school and I was going to some Bible study class. I was living in Seattle at the time. And these 2 young men came into the church, and they were asking directions to some other church, but they looked a little scruffy. And the women were just like so rude to them. I was like, after the men left, I said, they weren't asking you where a bar was. They just wanted to go to a church down the road. How can this be Christian to be like this to them? And they were just like, well, So I just said, okay, that's it with Christianity. I've had enough. So I really started to explore and read, as much as I could about all different traditions. And I had this book that I divided, like a notebook, I divided it into sections: body, heart, mind, and spirit. And when I read something that felt right to me, I just wrote it wherever it fit. And people were like, yeah, how would you even know what the truth is? And I was like, well, I know what my heart says, you know? So finally, actually met the emissaries, which are up in Loveland, which is at Sunrise Ranch, where we just went to a retreat. And they were saying everything that was in my notebook. Plus, they had more. And I was like, yes, this is so great. So I got involved with them for about 5 years. And then I was living in an emissary center in Kansas City. And we did this big celebration of the heart on Valentine's Day. And we had an interfaith group that was meeting called Heartland Council that were like leaders from many different traditions. So we did a all-day celebration, and we did like the Baha'i were there, the Sikhs, you know, it was everyone. And at the very last thing of that day, we invited the whole community. We had like 500 people turn up. And at the very last thing was Sufi dancing, which was, it's now called Dances of Universal Peace, but then that's what they called it. And I was just like, oh, I'm home. This is right for me. So I was with them for about 15 years, and it was at one of their camps that I met Sheikh Noor. So that's the story. Well, okay, the Sufi concept, which I totally agree with, is that there's nothing else but God, that everything is God, that every breath we take is God expressing within the world, you know, that the whole of creation, ever since the first flaring forth, has been God's plan unfolding. And that the only problem is that we believed we're separate. We believed we're separate from each other, from creation, from God, and it isn't the truth. And that really where we have to get to is the recognition that there's really nothing else. What I want them to know about me? It's easier to say what I want them to know about themselves.
Let's answer both.
Okay.
What do you want them to know about themselves?
What I want them to know about themselves is that their heart is so magnificent. And if they would just relax into that heart space and begin to love themselves fully, that we could live in paradise here on earth. And I guess what I'd want them to know about me is that I truly believe that it's possible and have had many, many, many experiences of that.
Chaitanya, Kabir. You know, I can't really say God or faith. I would have to say my earliest memory of maybe of meditation or memory of centering. And one that really strikes me is when I was a kid, we lived on a lake, one of these lakes that's carved out by the glaciers near Seattle. And I was just out rowing at dusk. And I used to go out and row quite a lot at dusk. And then one day I just decided that we had a good old boat with a good straight keel on it. And I was just row and see how long it would keep going. And the boat slowed down, and I slowed down. And I got down, so I was rowing about once a minute. And it was just like I just got more and more. It's just the beautiful dusk and the boat not going much of anywhere, but keeping right on a perfect straight line. And that was kind of my beginning of realizing there was a lot more here. Well, I was having a lot of experiences with the music, but I couldn't make much sense about it. And I was really studying Indian music many hours every day. But so then when I was initiated by Osho, I would say is the time when I really as an adult, took on the path and was given this amazing name, and really began to seriously meditate and be part of a spiritual life, and realized that everything I'd been doing with the music was already that, but I couldn't see it that way until that initiation. Then I was prepared to see it and step into it. I was sitting in a room. I'd been sitting with Osho every day for a few days. I was sitting in a room, and all those previous days, my mind had been rattling on how I wasn't going to do this initiation. I didn't need to do this because there was kind of like some indirect, nothing direct, but indirect pressure. Well, here's a chance. Here's an opportunity. Everybody's saying what a great thing this was. And my mind was completely rattling on how I couldn't do this. There's no way. I was too busy doing my music, my advanced degrees, whatever. And as I sat there, he looked at me and said, are you ready to be initiated? And some voice that I'm not quite sure how it came out was, yes. So I went up and got initiated. He gave me the name Chaitanya Kabir, which Kabir is vast. It's one of the 99 names of Allah, Arabic. And then Chaitanya is Sanskrit for consciousness. So together it's vast consciousness. But it also refers to two amazing mystics named Chaitanya, who started the kirtan, dancing in the street, and Kabir, who is a mystic of the oneness.
What is the chant or the part of kirtan that for you is most meaningful? Because there's a specific chant that is, this is yours.
That's hard to say, because I would have to say the one I'm singing is that one, But let's go with a particular chant and a particular raga. The ragas are the melody patterns, and one that I really love is Devi Daya Karama Jai Mata Kali Gari Kali Ma Devi Daya Karama Jai Mata Gauri Kali Ma Devi Daya Karama Jai Mata Gauri Kali Ma. And there's more, but that's the basic. It's basically saying, "Oh, Mother, have compassion on us." And the Gauri is the white or wheaten-colored goddess. Kali is the black goddess. Whichever form she wants to come, we're just off saying, come.
Yeah. Boy, that just...
Yeah. And the raga is Pradeep, which means the ultimate flame, the very ultimate flame, or ultimate source of light.